Welcome to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. Every Wednesday, Mark and Kim, along with their special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Mark and Kim will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience, and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Mark and Kim are tested, certified, and professional spiritual mediums, metaphysical teachers, healers, and spiritual advisors with their own individual spiritual practices in Seattle, Washington, and Los Angeles, California. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Good afternoon, inspired listeners, and welcome to Inspired Living with Mark and Kim. It's that time of the week again. It's Wednesday. It's here. I'm so excited for our show, as I am every week, and just so happy to have you with us. I am waiting for my partner to join us. It looks like we were having some technical difficulties here, so I'm just going to carry on until our guest and my co-host come on. So stay with me. We're going to have a good time until that happens. You can learn more about the work that I'm doing at lovefirst.info. That's lovefirst.info. If there's anything that I can do to help support you in the way of readings, energy healings, or hypnosis, working with the power of the mind, the subconscious, let me know. I would be, I'm always honored to work with the people that allow me to do that. I love the work that I do. I love this work. So I'm here to support those who are need a little support, and I'd be happy to do that with you as well. We have another amazing show this week with our guest, Jonathan Glass. He's got all kinds of knowledge behind him, and we're going to be talking about his book. He's the author of a 28-day program to detox the body and soul based on Ayurvedic nutrition, exercise, and yoga.
Okay,
now,
thanks.
Let me tell you something. This book is so comprehensive. It has got everything in it. I mean, it's a comprehensive look at really living a new way of life across the board, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. And so this is going to be a really interesting hour because he's got a wealth of knowledge. The book has just a wealth of information. I don't think there's an area that he hasn't covered. So with
Hi,
that
Kim.
said, hi, Mark.
I made it on, having some
Welcome.
technical, sorry about that, having some technical difficulties with my my settings, so everything reset on me, so you have to love those updates.
Yes. Well, gosh, Mark, so happy to have you here. I just said, you know what, we're going to have fun until my lovely co-host and our guests come on. So that's what I was planning. But I'm so glad that you're here, Mark. And, you know, for all the listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Mark's work up in the great Northwest, Mark, you can take it on from here and share how people can find you.
You bet. Well, hello, inspired listeners. How's everyone holding up out there in this crazy, chaotic world of ours? It is Wisdom Wednesday, and it's another inspiring episode of Inspired Living Radio here on the OMTimes Radio Network. Like Kim said, I am your co-host, Mark Lanehart, the Seattle Seer. And, thank you for joining us this next hour as we discuss how to detox through the body and soul and different things, modalities that we can use. If you want to check out the work that I'm doing, please visit me at marklanehart.com. You can internet search the Intuitive Prospector. But for the next hour, just kick back, relax, grab a nice cup of tea, throw on some comfortable clothes as we do a little, what I like to say, spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual goal. We're going to be having Jonathan join us here just shortly. He's coming in live from the East Coast. But if you want to also check out an upcoming event that I'm doing, I'm going to be at the Path to Avalon bookstore on March 31st for my first public dem of 2018. So I'm looking forward to that. There'll be more information on my website. And Kim, did we already get to the social media and the encore and the positive affirmation for the month of February?
We sure haven't, Mark, but you know what? I just want to comment on this because you said this chaotic world, and I think that's what we're going to be talking a lot about today, how it's kind of the chaos around us in every way, environmentally, how we're treating the animals, the stresses that we have in our life, all these things, how it impacts our well-being. So here you go. That's an example of a little bit of stress that came on, but we worked right through that. Leading into the show here, but that's just a little example of the many things that kind of unfold during any given day, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I was here and I was on mute because I'm trying to get Jonathan on the line with us right now. He's trying to call and he's having some technical difficulties as well on his end. But yes, it's sometimes you got to work through the chaos and the craziness of the external world and stay grounded and just push through. So it's going to be a fun show. And while we're waiting for Jonathan, who is perfect timing. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Mark.
Jonathan.
Okay. Hello.
Hello. We're just getting started. I was also having some technical difficulties on my end.
Okay, so it worked out good.
It worked out good. And that's what we were just talking about. Sometimes with the craziness and the chaos around the world, sometimes you just gotta keep moving forward. I always like to say AMF, always moving forward. But real quick, Jonathan, just for our inspired listeners, because we haven't gotten into your bio yet, and I want to read a little bit about the book. This is a new book that just came out, your 28-day program on how to detox the body and the soul based on your background. But for our inspired listeners out there all around the world, Jonathan Glass is a master acupuncturist, certified Shuddha Ayurveda therapist. Am I totally just destroying that?
Shuddha, yeah.
Shuddha, okay. And herbalist who has served on the faculty of the New England School of Acupuncture and the Dharma Institute of Yoga and Ayurveda. I don't think
Ayurveda, yep.
Right. Ayurveda, okay. It's kind of
Ayurveda, yeah, you got it.
Ayurveda, okay. An advocate of group support transformational cleanse programs. He's been in private practice since 1987, so he's been doing this for just a little bit, right? And he is the co-founder of the Healing Essence Center with his wife, who I know and love, and he lives in Concord, Massachusetts. So, Jonathan, better late than never. Welcome to Inspired Living Radio with Mark and Kim.
Thank you, Mark and Kim.
So, congratulations on your new book launch.
Thank you very much.
I know when we were out, or when I was out in Boston for a public event, we sat down to dinner and you told me all about your book, and I think it was a perfect fit for our show, for our inspired listeners, so they can get some more information on how to detox the body and the soul. And it's a 28-day program. So let's get in before our first break, and let's talk all about this new book and how it came to be and why you wrote it and what you hope to what messages you hope to share with the inspired listeners today.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in practice for about almost 30 years, and in 1997 I developed a relationship with a really good a friend of mine. Became a good friend. He was a chiropractor, and he joined our office, and we were talking about our difficult patients. It was a lot of fun because it was really my first friend in this world that I could really talk to, as a colleague and discuss challenging situations as a practitioner. So that was a lot of fun. And we were vacationing together as families on the beautiful Martha's Vineyard, and we were going for a long walk, and we were talking about things. And we both came up with this idea that it would be really great to create a program for what we called then our difficult patients to really focus on dietary and lifestyle practices, because what we found is that certain people had really, I guess you could say, really out of balance diet and lifestyle practices that really interrupted their their healing process. And as a practitioner, it's not a lot of fun when someone comes back week after week after week, even though they're paying you and they're really not getting better, or they're getting, they say, oh, I felt better for 2 days after the treatment, and then now I feel the same again. And so anyway, we put this program together. It was a 5-week program, and we discovered that after really giving people the opportunity to clean up their diets, to do a little meditation, add a little exercise, sort of reset how they approach their lives, that things started shifting really quickly. And then those same people, when they were patients, getting whether it was chiropractic or acupuncture or herbs or whatever, everything just started moving along much smoother. And it was such a pleasant experience to work with those people after the cleanse. And we didn't have to every week say, well, maybe try doing a little bit of this, try cutting back on that. And it just was sort of a quantum shift in that person's healing, and it was a quantum shift in our practice. So we knew we were onto something, and there was the power of group support, the power of association. We used to talk about it that we were kind of going upstream in terms of how society sees things. And now there's a lot more openness to these types of things. But back then, boy, there really wasn't. And so great things started happening. So that's really how it all began.
Yeah, so especially back in 1987, completely different mindset, completely different
absolutely
spiritualism, holistic health. What got you, Jonathan, into holistic healing as far as actually wanting to do this since 1987? And in your center, did you open that up in 1987, or did that come after your journey began?
Yeah, well, we were in California in 87, and we moved back to the Boston area, and in 92 we opened up in Concord, Mass.
Okay.
Yeah. And then over the last couple of years, about 8 years ago, I decided that having a book would be a good idea, and it would also be a nice idea for participants of the cleanse, which we still do, and then as an opportunity to share the information and the experience that I've had over the years, sort of on a larger scale.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's a 28-day program, so just less than a month, or I guess it would be a perfect time to do it in February, because there's usually 28 days in February. But, So kind of take us through, for the inspired listeners out that are listening that are looking for a detox or a program. One, how can they get your book? Who's it published with, and where is it located, so they can actually get a visual reference? And kind of take us through the first steps of this 28-day program for detoxifying the body and the soul.
You got it. So first of all, to get the book, you can get it a few places. It's on Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble. So if you just typed in Total Life Cleanse, you'll find it there. And then also if you go to totallifecleanse.com, that's one of my websites, you'll find it there as well. And then for those people listening, February 10th and 11th, we're having a Kindle sale on Amazon. It'll be $4.95, but it's not generally that expensive anyway, but it's a nice opportunity. So the cleanse it's a 28-day program, and people kind of say, well, how can you do a lot in 28 days? Well, you really can do amazing things in 28 days. It's really meant to initiate something as well. It's not that we just, cleanse, or like my dog, goes into the pond and then comes out and rolls in the dirt afterwards. It's a little bit different than that. The idea is for people to make some quantum shifts in their approach to diet and lifestyle, and a lot of people really do that. So 28 days seems to be enough time for that to happen. So in the beginning, what we're doing is we're just having people eliminate the common food stressors. And, this is not necessarily, we're not doing blood tests to see, specifically what foods people are sensitive to or whatever, but we eliminate the common ones. And those typically are wheat, dairy, sugar. We do eliminate coffee, although people can do the certain teas with caffeine. So wheat, dairy, sugar are the biggies. Nightshades for some people are an issue, so we eliminate those. We only use very healthy fats, minimal amounts of, we don't use vegetable oils, but we may use some coconut oil or something called ghee, which is clarified butter, as a cooking medium, but in small amounts. We have people do smoothies every day. I give them supplements with, really healthy protein powder and greens and really yummy smoothies. And so the first week is really an elimination of those foods. And simultaneously, because it's the Total Life Cleanse, we have people think about 3 things they'd like to let go of, 3 things or qualities they'd like to bring into their life, start doing some very simple, basic meditation practices. And we also have people, after about 3 or 4 days, start to do what we call the media fast. And so really minimizing media, minimizing television and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, except for what's necessary for work. And so it's really giving people a chance to regroup, rebalance, decrease stimulation. And we're not saying that any of these things are inherently bad, but taking a break occasionally is a really, really good thing for the nervous system, for the consciousness. We've had people in this last cleanse that I'm doing right now saying things like, it's such a relief that I don't have to check my Facebook every 10 minutes. Things like that. People have the experience of what it's like to, to really simplify their life and reorient toward a more sane type of situation.
Yeah, I like that, and we're going to have to hashtag media fast. I haven't heard that before. I like that, and I think that's definitely something that can nourish the soul. So we're going to be cutting to our first break of the show here. Any moment here, we usually hear some whistling that starts coming up. But again, just for our inspired listening audience, there you go. Great timing. So we're going to be going to our very first break, but stick around. We're going to be coming back to talk about this 28-day program to detoxify the body and the soul with our very special guest today, Jonathan Glass. This is Inspired Living Radio. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Are you seeking answers to life questions? Would you like to connect to a departed loved one? Are you suffering from pain, stress, or anxiety? Kimberly Thalkin is a tested, certified, and professional psychic, spiritual medium, energy healer, hypnotherapist, and the founder of Love First, where life transformations happen. Love First services support, guide, and empower individuals by connecting them to their highest potential to live a healthier, joyful, and meaningful life that's filled with purpose. All services can be done by phone, Skype, or in person in Encino, California. Please visit lovefirst.info. That's LOVEFIRST.info for more information.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fox, host and astrologer of The Astrology Show. Each week, I'll give you access to the current transits, which are a valuable tool that provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has. Understanding the stars can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, be sure to tune in to The Astrology Show for guidance. Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
I'm Fidel Nshambo. I was born in a city called the Bukavu in the Congo. We were a loving family, and then, boom, everything that I had disappeared in a single day. People think that when you are a refugee and they resettle you to America, and all your problems are done. They don't understand that that's the beginning of everything. I was not born a refugee. I was made one.
It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hey, Inspired listeners, welcome back to Inspired Living Radio with Mark and Kim. Our very special guest today, Jonathan Glass, calling in from Concord, Massachusetts, with his new book, a 28-day program to detox the body and soul based on Ayurvedic nutrition, exercise, and yoga. That is such a tongue twister for me. Jonathan, I'll get there. But I also want to just remind our inspired listeners that we are taking calls today. So if you do want to call in the United States only, that call-in number is 1-202-570-7057. For our inspired listeners outside of the United States, you can always post your question to our Facebook page. It is our closed community page called Inspired Living Radio. If you post a question there, we'll bring it live to air, or you can call in and talk with us directly or our special guest today, Jonathan Glass. If you want to follow us on any of our social media pages, you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram under the handle Inspired For Us. That is the number 4. You can also follow us on Google Plus Communities page under Inspired Living Radio. And if you want to catch any of the encore shows that we've done in our 3rd season, we're in our 3rd season of Inspired Living Radio, you can follow us on YouTube, iTunes, OMTimes Radio Archives, Podbean, SoundCloud. You can also get our favorite episodes at lovefirst.info and marklaneheart.com. And that's all of our 100-plus shows that we've done over the last 3 years, I guess now. Wow. So, and with that, we have our positive affirmation before we jump right into this new book by Jonathan. Kim, you have our positive affirmation for the month of February, don't you?
Yes, it's our first one. So the inspired affirmation for the month is money flows in my life. I'm prosperous. So I know at this time of the year, people are oftentimes thinking about their finances, and as we head into the rest of the year, kind of good to get on track of how what our perspective is around money. So hopefully that helps out. So Jonathan, it's so good to have you on. And
thanks, Kim.
I was just telling our listeners before you came on how comprehensive your book is. It's like it doesn't skip a beat. You've got everything in there, just a wealth of knowledge, not just about diet and exercise, but everything else that's going on in the environment, with the animals, on a spiritual level, on a soul level. So everything, there's an interconnectedness there. You want to talk about that? Because some people, might not think about that. They think, oh, I've got to eat healthy, and then, that's it. But there's a lot more to this comprehensively. You want to talk us through that?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. And that's really one of the things I'm most passionate about in Chinese medicine and in Ayurveda. Veda means knowledge and Ayur means life. And that system of medicine is just so amazing and has informed my perspective so much, because it really comes from the perspective that we are souls, and as souls we are what's known as eternal. We have the potential for pure beingness, pure awareness, and pure love. That is our inherent capacity. But we have bodies, we have limitations, we have conditioning. And so Ayurveda is really about balancing those two realities. It starts out that, acknowledging our divinity and at the same time fully acknowledging that we have limitations, whether in Ayurveda they would call it doshic limitations, which means we all have our tendencies of going out of balance. Or, from a Western medicine perspective, it could possibly be in the category of genetic tendencies, things like that. So working with both angles is really important. And the other aspect is that everything is seen on numerous levels. So take even the liver. The liver is an organ and has all its physical functions, but the liver is also an organ that holds the emotion of anger. But it also holds the emotion or the capacity for creativity, or not just physical vision, but spiritual vision. And it also, the Chinese describe it as it's where the hun, or the spirit of zest for life and learning and growing and really experiencing life, and that the hun lives in the liver. So then we start making connections where if somebody's depressed or irritable or really grumpy or has no zest for life, right there we know that the liver is struggling. So even if a blood test doesn't show that the liver enzymes are high, from a Chinese medicine or an Ayurvedic perspective, we know that by supporting that organ, that their liver is going to function at a higher capacity. And then what happens is that people's zest for life improves too. So we see these really multidimensional realities that happen when people start cleansing. So there's many, many dimensions of it. And that's why after about 2 years of leading cleanse programs, we changed it from the total body cleanse to the total life cleanse, because it was really about our whole life, and it's really about our quality of life and our relationships and our interconnectedness on many levels, emotional and spiritual levels, and then there's the connection between what we do and the environment. And then even like in my book, there's a whole section on karma, and there's a section on reincarnation, and there's a section on, the destination of the soul. But all of that is included in Ayurveda. It's just part of it. And at the same time, the system is extremely brilliant just on physical levels. I mean, the information that they have on treating different diseases, Ayurveda was one of the first systems that actually had surgery. Their herbal medicine is extremely sophisticated and very effective, as is Chinese medicine. So while they look at things from many different angles, it doesn't minimize the effectiveness of their medicinal practices.
Yeah, I've always heard that the word Ayurvedic, and just a couple years ago I went to a gathering where they were talking through Ayurvedic practices, and it was really, really interesting. We didn't get into, maybe the spiritual side of it as much as like the combination of spices and based on your own individual makeup and what food combinations work best in certain scenarios. I'm probably not doing it justice, but
no, you're beautiful. It's perfect what you're saying.
Yeah, so it was really just interesting way to understand, our food choices and how they can support us based on our own, makeup.
Our own makeup.
To us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you talk about cleanses, there are so many benefits that you list in your book, and I think it'd be great for our listeners to hear some of the ways that a cleanse can support.
Sure. Yep. So I think one of the most simple ways of looking at cleansing is to remove burden from the body and the mind. So when we take off temporarily, when we remove some of the stressors that we come in contact with on a regular basis, when we remove or minimize those stressors, the body can then start working and functioning at a higher level. And when I say the body, I do mean the mind, the emotions, and even when there's less stressors, you could say, from an Ayurvedic perspective, what they feel and what I believe is that the soul itself, or the consciousness itself, is able to shine through the vessel of your body-mind and express itself more fully and more completely. So cleansing removes the obstacles. It's kind of like clearing the dust off a mirror or clearing the dust off a windshield, or the ice off. We have snow here today. Scraping the ice off the windshield so you can see clearly. So that's really what cleansing is doing. So minimizing food stressors, minimizing media stressors, adding meditation, adding yoga, breathing practices, reading things that inspire you to support the hun, that zest for life or that interest in life, expanding your awareness. All those things are really part of cleansing. So on a physical level, we generally see that people have less pain, better elimination, their immune systems tend to become stronger, We've had, people have had migraines and headaches minimized significantly, blood pressure balances, cholesterol tends to regulate, come into a completely normal zone, all kinds of things like that. If somebody has chronic fatigue, if somebody has Lyme's disease, if somebody has cancer, if somebody has any of these types of chronic things or acute diseases, eating really clean is probably one of the most fundamental and important things that we can do. It really, really is. And without that, anything else that people are doing isn't going to work as well. So, those are some of the things that cleansing does.
I just want to add to that. It's very interesting. So my father was diagnosed with cancer a couple weeks ago. And I've been with him through all of the doctor visits with the oncologist and all the other doctors that come into play here. And not once really has diet come up.
No, they don't. They don't. It's unfortunate.
Just amazing. It's just amazing. And it's like what they'll talk to you about are the treatments. They're going to put you on the chemotherapy and this and that, but they don't talk about shifting your lifestyle, making sure that your body, which is your temple, is getting all of the proper nutrients that are going to support you through the healing process. So it's just very, it's just such a shame that there's a whole part of just beautiful side of life, really. All the things that you're talking about, Jonathan, represents beauty in life, is missing from the system. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's really true. And you got to give these doctors credit. They do some amazing things with people.
Yes,
and I'm just hoping that, the system harmonizes over the next, number of years. But yeah, it really is extremely imbalanced. How diet, nutrition, none of these things are acknowledged. And I have patients that, that are going through chemo, and they do so much better eating well and taking Chinese herbs that really supports their immune system. I have a woman who recently, some of the chemo generally brings the white blood cells. It crashes the white blood cells. And she's just doing my Chinese herbs. And because she's allergic to their medications, actually, so she couldn't do it. And the doctors were blown away because her white blood cells are better than most of the other patients who are on the medications. So,
that's
things like that happen.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I do want to say, yes, the doctors are doing great work out there, too. But there is, I feel, a very big component of, that missing in the messaging and, to support someone's healing. And instead of talking about the different ways that you can help yourself, they'll talk about the different pills or prescriptions they're going to give you to offset these things that we're talking about. So anyways, I didn't mean to take us off track here, but I think
it's an important point, though. It's a very important point.
Yeah. Yeah, so
totally.
Just as you were saying, is just the benefits of cleansing are just across the board wonderful, and you've got some great recipes, and that's a part of your program that I've noticed too.
Yep, we have the way we have it is we have a recipe for every day, and that works very well. And a lot of people just like becoming familiar with some of the recipes, and it's nice because when the cleanse is over, they can still use those recipes, and it makes their life much easier. They've learned the recipes. They're comfortable with them. They may be a little different from what they're used to eating, but once they get used to it, it's a whole nother lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think what's great, too, about this book is not only can you educate yourself on all the other stuff that we're talking about, the spiritual side and the exercises and stuff, but oftentimes people, it's an educational process of people. It's not something that naturally comes to most of us, how to eat this way, because we're so used to eating on the run and processed foods and all the things that you get at the grocery store. And so, being able to have the recipes there for them that they can follow in one place, along with all the other information, I just think is is really great.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like that was one of my goals. I think was to as seamlessly as possible integrate many things. And I think one of my passions is to show the interconnectedness of everything. And that's Ayurveda does that beautifully. Chinese medicine does that beautifully. But to put it as much as possible in a language that us Westerners and people that are in the healing path, but in a way that's sort of easy to understand, and it is really common sense. And when you really look at it, ultimately, it's not crazy, it's not wild and amazing, really. It's a beautiful thing, but it's really there's a lot of common sense in how all this stuff and information works together. And it brings me a lot of pleasure when I see people making that connection and realizing how what they do in one area of their life impacts another area.
Right. I don't think people oftentimes connect the dots, which
Exactly.
helps them better understand their own life. So you also say, we're going to be going into break pretty soon, but you say that cleansing may be more important now than ever. And you talk about our modern day life and society that has us stressed, starved, and poisoned. Boy, that's not so uplifting. So we can start this, but we're going to be heading into break, and then we can continue when we come back.
Talk about that after, sure. Yep.
To start,
Great.
And stay with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes as we continue our conversation here on Living a Healthier Life. Stay with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Have you wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Mark Lanehart, the intuitive prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Mark's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Mark's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marklanehart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Tune in to The Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
America's service members and veterans are strong, forged out of bravery, sacrifice, and duty. Sometimes reaching out for help can be the most challenging and worthwhile mission of all. When you recognize something isn't right, make the call to the Veterans Crisis Line or Military Crisis Line. Dial 1-800-273-8255 and press 1.
And welcome back to Inspired Living Radio. Our special guest today, Jonathan Glass, talking about his new book, 28-Day Program to Detox the Body and Soul based on Ayurvedic Nutrition, Exercise, and Yoga. Welcome back, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Am I finally getting the word down? Ayurvedic?
Yeah, you're getting pretty good at it there, Mark.
What I love about doing radio is always learning something new. That's why we do the show here on Inspired Living Radio, is because we get guests like yourself to come on and teach us and, teach inspired listeners and educate us. And I always say the secret of life is education leads us to knowledge, knowledge leads us to wisdom, and wisdom hopefully leads us to enlightenment. I like the cover of your book, and real quick, I just want to the cover itself shows nutrition, so it shows somebody doing yoga. Is this something that you put together, or did the publishing company put this together, the lady doing the yoga?
Actually, the publishing company put it together. We gave them some ideas, and my son and I had actually made a cover because I was initially going to self-publish. And literally a week, I was just about to press the button on self-publishing, and my wife met an editor at Inner Traditions, which is a really amazing publishing company from Vermont, and they work with a lot of books in the health field. And so I sent them the version that my son and I had put together, which had some similarities, but I have to admit they made a nicer version. I'm really happy with what they did.
Nice. I always like to ask our guests how, where they get the inspiration for their books, their cover of the books, the pictures on their books. Love the divine timing that you were about to hit the self-publishing button, and the universe said, no, wait a minute, we've got a publishing company in Vermont that
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm really happy I went with them. I mean, self-publishing can be great too, but it's worked out great for me.
Very nice. So, and like I said, for the hashtag that you need to start really putting out there is media fast. I love that. I think a lot of people would really resonate because it does feel like the media, Facebook, social media, it's always in our face. And I think for part of that cleanse that you talk about in your book is very important. I love that hashtag.
Cool.
But I have to also say, Kim made a very important point, because I've had a few family members myself pass into spirit from cancer, and there was never any discussion about nutrition. And I've always been taught that food is fuel for the body. And I find that fascinating in medicine. Even with my own journey, I cut out dairy last year and went to a gluten-free diet, and that has made a huge difference in weight loss and mindset and just how I feel energetically. So let's continue that conversation about the diet. And in the book, you talk about as far as patterns in the mind that that outlines a supportive karma forgiveness cleanse or ritual practice to help detoxify and heal and nourish the spirit. I think the inspired listeners would be fascinated with that topic, and let's dive into that a little bit deeper if we could.
Sure. Yeah. And yes, I'm just acknowledging exactly what you did say about the diet. It's so important, and something that's not acknowledged. It's a real blind spot in the system, in the medical system. It's a huge blind spot. It's changing, but it's like a dinosaur. It's a very slow process, and it's because of the systems that are involved, and the insurance and all that kind of stuff. That just makes everything slow to change. But yeah, in terms of the I call it the karma forgiveness cleanse, and the idea really in part of cleansing is not just cleansing the body, but cleansing the mind and cleansing the perception also, how we perceive things. And I find it to be true that when we cleanse the body, we find it easier to cleanse the mind. I just do, because when we're not eating in ways that are overstimulating or over agitating for the system, it keeps the lake of the mind a little calmer. So, for instance, Mark, you mentioned that if you stopped eating wheat, and that your mind is clearer, and that's true for many people. In fact, many people out there might find that their depression levels or their ADD levels or their just feeling lack of zip for life might significantly improve just by eliminating wheat or it may be dairy for some people, and for many people it's eating so much sugar. So just those three things, I mean, I would recommend anybody listening right now, just, go for 2 weeks if you can, or even a week, avoiding those things. It's not easy for the first 3 days, but after that it becomes really easy. And just do a test for yourself, and you'll see. So that leads to a clearer mind, and with a clearer mind, we can then perceive things more as they are. And one of the first things that we do in the cleanse is we talk about the word prajalpa in Sanskrit. It's an interesting word. It means useless talk. And it's an important thing in Ayurveda to really, they really honor the potency of our words. And, in most spiritual traditions, they honor the Word of God, or the Word itself. And when we use our words sort of without awareness and randomly and just in ways that are unconsciously, we don't realize, but it can have a far more damaging effect, not only to other people that we may use those words, but actually against ourselves. And so prajalpa means useless talk or gossip. And it's like last night in my cleanse group, we were talking about it. And it's a beautiful thing to have people really kind of think about, okay, how much do I really gossip and talk about, find pleasure in talking about the negative realities of other people's lives. And human beings, it's a tendency. We all have these tendencies. Right. And rather than pretend that, I never do something like that, I'm perfect, we all have that tendency to some degree. But if we realize that actually this is a toxin, because in Ayurveda there's physical toxins, mental toxins, emotional toxins, even spiritual toxins, that it's considered a toxin, and a toxin is a cause of disease. So let's eliminate the toxins on every level. So the immediate fast can have toxins. Prajalpa, or useless talk or gossip, can be a toxin. Another level, you ask about spiritual toxin, we would consider extreme dogmatism as a spiritual toxin. That's a type of toxin which is harmful not only to other people but to us. So ultimately, because we know that all human beings have different degrees of imbalance and conditioning and limitations, and what in Ayurveda they call dosha, and dosha literally means fault or fault tendency. And the idea is, as much as we are, perfectly beautiful divine beings on the one hand, and that's our true identity and true reality, we all have our very unique and individual doshas, or imbalance, or even disease tendencies. And disease doesn't just mean a symptom, a name of a disease, but how we go out of balance. We all have our unique versions of that. And the sooner we acknowledge what our own personal versions of that are, and then we certainly, as soon as we acknowledge that the very wise things that some of these Vedic masters have recognized of things that create imbalance, then we can start shifting those things in our lives. So the karma forgiveness cleanse is really coming from the perspective of what are those things that we can eliminate that cause suffering and toxicity in our lives and the lives of others. What are those things we can bring in that will bring in karma is really just the law of cause and effect. One of my teachers says, karma is like how did he put it? I'll think of it later. But it's basically whatever you do, you taste in return. Mm-hmm. So whatever actions we do, no matter what it is, we will taste the result of those reactions in some way. Mm-hmm. So, and he put it in terms of taste. We experience it, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally. It's not a vindictive process. It's not like the universe is out to get us. It's just life. If you're kind to someone else, then you're going that kind energy is going to come back in some way, in some form.
Yeah, I like
so forgiveness
of that of putting it into taste, because if you're bitter, then the taste should get
exactly.
bitter. If you're I like that visualization.
Yeah. So just real quick on forgiveness, it's a big thing, but again, from an Ayurvedic perspective, and from a lot of our perspectives, we're sort of understanding this now, is that that we are divine beings, and that if somebody else is an illusion about who they are, if they have no clue that they're a divine being and they're acting out of their dosha and conditioning without any awareness, that's unfortunate, and they may cause pain to other people. But if we can understand that and we can see that, and from that perspective forgive them for their misconceptions, that's one version, and I think it's a very important version of forgiveness. But if we don't recognize our own divinity first, then we can't. It's difficult to see the divinity in another person. And forgiveness doesn't mean, okay, now that I forgive you, I have to put myself in a dangerous situation. Okay, this person is he likes to harm people, so I forgive him, so therefore I'm going to, put myself in harm's way. No, it just means that, as my teacher would say, forgive someone, respect their divinity, but if you have to respect it from a distance, then you do that. Yeah. But as I was saying last night in my cleanse, if there's a quality in somebody that we really don't like, and we say to ourselves, I don't like that person, I don't want to be with that person, and then say, Mark, you and I got together and we had lunch, and I was saying, well, Joe, I don't like Joe, and I started talking to you for an hour about Joe's negative qualities, then guess what? I've just spent time with Joe for an hour, but only the part of Joe that's negative. So I've just ingested that toxicity into my very self. So, in fact, I have spent an hour with Joe, but I've actually spent probably the worst hour with Joe that I could spend, because all I've been doing is focusing on his negative qualities. So better to forgive, to see past someone's faults, and then, yes, use our discrimination to decide whether you want to spend time with them or not. But the discipline of the mind is, I'm not going to focus on their negative qualities. If I don't want to be with somebody, that's fine. But I don't need to focus on their negative qualities or discuss them or gossip about them or justify why I feel the way I do. So forgiveness is a huge part of cleansing, and the beautiful thing is when we take time in our life to clean up how we're eating and living and thinking, magical things happen. And forgiveness is easier when we, paradoxically, even when we take the burden off the body, I find forgiveness and a healthy mind is easier to come in contact with.
Mm-hmm. It's healthier. You don't waste time. Some of the key words, I always say words matter, based on your energy, your frequency, and your vibration of life, and very important. Fascinating. And you break this up into pretty much 4 different cycles as far as to maximize this nourishment, this detoxification. I always do a cleanse in January, but I think I'm going to give it a go on this 28-day program here, maybe in March or April. Do you recommend people doing this a few times a year, or what's the timeline for doing something like this kind of detoxification?
Yep. Typically in Ayurveda, it's recommended to do a cleanse twice a year. And and the spring and the fall are considered to be the best times to cleanse. I do lead, and I do recommend people cleansing in the winter only because it's a nice opportunity to sort of recover from the from the holidays and all that. Mm-hmm. We tend to get out of balance and overeat and all kinds of stuff during the holidays, and also because of the the challenges of the immune system. So it's kind of a good excuse to eat really clean in the winter, because eating cleaner can help to minimize the likelihood of getting really sick. And if someone does get sick, then they should be able to recover a little quicker if they're taking good care of themselves and eating well. So in the winter we do a cleanse, but typically I recommend twice a year, and it's great to really reset. And there is logic behind the spring, but the winter the body does tend to hold on to things more. The body's not in cleanse mode. It's sort of not thinking about detoxing chemicals and metals and pesticides and things that the body holds on to. But in the spring, the body literally does like to detoxify, and the liver organ is sort of excited in the spring. So if it's given the opportunity to release, it really does a very good job of doing that in the spring. And in the fall, the large intestine is empowered, as we say in Ayurveda. So releasing toxins from the intestines is a bit more effective in the fall.
Very cool. Well, let's bring Kim back on the air with us here real quick. I think, Kim, you should introduce your dad to this 28-day program and measure results, get some feedback. And Jonathan, are you getting feedback from people as well before we close the show?
In terms of the book?
In terms of the book, yeah.
Yeah, no, people are. It's really fun to have people that normally wouldn't read the book or that I don't even know, and I'm starting to get some, because the book really was released on the 31st of January, and so it's just new and it's exciting. I even have a few people on Facebook that told me they got their book. Don't even know who they are, and it's sort of funny messaging with them saying what page you're on now, and it's been a lot of fun. People really seem to enjoying it, and they like the depth of it and the breadth of it. So that's been great.
Well, awesome, Jonathan.
Thank
you so much for being on.
Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Check out Jonathan Glass's new book, 28-Day Program to Detox the Body and Soul, based on Ayurvedic nutrition, exercise, and yoga. This has been Inspired Living Radio. Have a great day, everybody.